Hi, I'm the Board Game Bandit, and this is Next Step Gaming, where we take you from gateway to gamer. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Seven Wonders. Unlike most of the other entries in this series, I don't consider Seven Wonders to be a gateway game. It's easy to explain how to play the game, but what to do during the game is an entirely different story. For that reason, I don't recommend it on my list of gateway games, but a number of other people disagree, and they teach this game to a lot of people, so there might still be some value if you've seen this game before. What is it about Seven Wonders that makes it so popular, one of the most popular board games right now? I think there's a lot of things. For starters, there are 7 different ways to score points in Seven Wonders, so every game offers a lot of versatility. If you're not doing well in one area, you can completely abandon it and focus it on another one. In many ways, it's a game of optimization. How can I score the most points possible given the circumstances that I'm given? For other people, the flexibility is really good because you're given a starting direction with your wonder. What am I good at? How can I do that better? How is that going to guide my overall strategy? The game was designed by Antoine Baza, who has designed many games that I have enjoyed. Seven Wonders is actually one of them, even though I don't think it's a gateway game. The final thing about Seven Wonders is its complexity. Every draft turn, you have to think very carefully about what you're going to take, what you don't want other people to get, because you're going to be passing it from left to right. And I think that offers a lot of interesting choices. So let's look and see how these principles apply to other games. The first game I would recommend for Seven Wonders is a game made by the same designer, and that's Tokaido. Tokaido is a drafting game in the sense that you are drafting a location from a map. There's a very interesting mechanic where along the map, the player who's furthest behind is the current player and gets to take their turn. It's actually possible to take multiple turns in a row, and I'll get to that in a second. But what's interesting about Tokaido is that instead of 7 ways to score, there are actually 8. You can purchase souvenirs, make a donation to the temple, take a bath, visit a traveler, paint one of 3 different paintings, and order sushi. So there's many ways to score, and like Seven Wonders, you can choose to be in everything, or you can abandon some and focus strictly on others. One of the great things about Tokaido is how well you can tell that these games are made by the same designer. In Tokaido, players are moving along a road, stopping at various destinations. The player who is furthest behind is always the active player, which is defined by moving left to right across the board. The active player can draft any open destination to their right, but they can never retreat. Depending on the player count, some locations may have spots for 2 travelers. Each location provides a different way of scoring points. Black spaces are villages where souvenirs can be purchased for coins. Souvenirs are scored in sets where each souvenir is different and the value increases with each souvenir. Red spaces are temples where players can donate coins for points. Additionally, players will earn points at the end of the game for having donated more coins than other players. Pink locations are encounters where a random positive effect is given to the current player. Light blue spaces are hot springs where a player receives 2 or 3 points. The green, white, and dark blue spaces are panoramas to be collected. Each piece of the picture scores cumulative points, with bonus points given to the first player who completes each canvas. Yellow locations are farms where players can get 3 coins. All players must stop at every inn along the way, where they can purchase sushi cards for 1, 2, or 3 coins. Each sushi card is worth 6 points, and no player can eat the same sushi twice. Each player also has a character power that provides strategy and direction, such as extra points for taking baths or sushi discounts. There are several bonus points available at the end of the game, given to players who take an action most frequently. The player with the most points wins. Seven Wonders gives you a starting wonder that gives you some direction as to what you're going to be good at over the course of the game or what you want to do, and Tokaido does the same thing with the starting character. I like how this game really influences the direction you want to take because you want to maximize your starting power. Unlike Seven Wonders, a game where a new person is never going to win unless they're extremely lucky or the person lets them win. I feel in Tokaido, it's actually very reasonable for a new player to win, and I see it happen a number of times. That's why I would recommend Tokaido, a game that feels like it was made by the same person as Seven Wonders, but is a bit more manageable. One of the biggest things about Seven Wonders is the fact that you are playing, in a sense, with the player to your left and to your right. And there's an unofficial partnership between the two of you because you need to depend on what resources they're going to produce, and you're hoping that they buy resources from you. If there's a game that really emphasizes that aspect of immediately having a partnership with the player to your left and your right, for me, it's Between Two Cities. This is a fascinating game because it's semi-cooperative, one of the actual semi-cooperative games that works, in my opinion. In Between Two Cities, you're building two cities, one with the player to your left and one to the player with your right. Unlike Tokaido, which was a turn-by-turn draft, Between Two Cities has the same simultaneous drafts as Seven Wonders, except you're taking two tiles instead of one. You're ultimately trying to build a 4x4 grid, and you'll take one tile for each city, but you have to negotiate to see where you're going to place it and what tile is going to be placed in each respective city. Let's take a closer look. Between Two Cities is a semi-cooperative drafting game where players are working with the player to their left and right. Each player is building two cities, one with each adjacent player. Each city will be a 4x4 grid. The game is played over 3 rounds. In the first and third round, players draft 2 single tiles per turn, doing this 3 times. Each city must receive 1 tile from each player building that city. Players cannot talk during the draft, but may freely discuss during the placement phase which tile to select and where to place it. Each tile scores points according to its type, and tiles have a scale on the bottom for reference. Yellow tiles score in straight lines, either vertical or horizontal, up to 4 per set. Black tiles are worth 4 for the player who have the most, 3 for the players who have the second most, and 2 points for all other players. Red tiles score based on the number of different symbols in each set of red tiles, up to 4 per set. Blue tiles score according to an additive series, up to 6 per set. In addition, any blue tile that is touching at least one other red tile scores an additional point. Green tiles score according to the number of adjacent green tiles in each region. Eventually, there are diminishing returns for that region. Brown tiles score 1 point for each color in your city, up to 5 points per tile, unless they are placed next to black tiles, in which case they only score 1 point. Brown tiles do not count as a color themselves. In the second round, players draft 2 duplex tiles in a single turn. These tiles must be placed without changing their orientation. After 3 rounds, players will have built a 4x4 grid, and each city is scored separately. Players will receive points for the lower of their 2 cities they built, and the player with the most points wins. Between Two Cities is just as fast as Seven Wonders, if not faster. You could play it in under 20 minutes, and you definitely want to play it multiple rounds in a row. The most I've ever played is 4, and we only stopped because we had something else that we wanted to get in before the night was done. For me, it's a very interesting optimization problem, just like Seven Wonders, but I really like how you have to negotiate with the player to your left and to your right. Everyone is drafting for what they want, but there's sort of a chain of responsibility that makes everyone involved in every game. If there's 5 players, you're really not playing with the player furthest 2 spaces away from you, but you really are because you're playing with someone who is also playing with them simultaneously, and everybody is negotiating on their own behalf with everyone else. Therefore, you have to be very careful about what you draft, because you may take something that you think is very good for your right city, only for it to be forced into your left city, where it doesn't do well at all. And because you take the lesser of the two, you have to be extremely careful. So I think this is a great drafting game, and definitely a next step after Seven Wonders. If you like the variety of choices in Seven Wonders, you're definitely going to like Elysium, a game that makes my head hurt. That's how many choices there are. Elysium contains 8 gods, and you'll select 5 of them to be in the game, so every game is going to feel different based on the available choices. On each turn, players are going to be selecting cards from a tableau. There's a cost on each card, and you need to have that cost in resources in order to take it. The problem is, you must discard one resource in order to take the card. Not the one shown on the card, but inevitably you're going to see what are the other card costs available, what can I take and leave for myself so that other players won't be able to take the cards I want. There's also 2 phases of Elysium. There is being above the Elysium line in the domain where you can get to use the powers of the cards, and cards have very interesting powers that will make you do things very well over the course of the game. However, they don't actually score for being in the domain. You need to transfer them into the Elysium, which is not easy to do. So you have to manage not only what cards can I take, but how am I going to actually put them into my Elysium for scoring? What do I want for myself, and what do I want to make sure that no one else can take from me? Let's take a closer look. Elysium is played over 5 rounds. Each round, players will be drafting 3 cards and 1 quest. To take a card or quest, players must have the specified resource on that item, which is usually one of 4 colors. After taking the item, players must discard any one resource from their hand, which need not be the prerequisite mentioned before. There are 2 areas of play for each player, the domain and the Elysium. When a card is drafted, it is placed into a player's domain where it might provide a special power. Cards with abilities may be continuous, once per round, or once during the game. However, only cards transferred to the Elysium score points where they lose their special powers. Cards transferred to an Elysium are placed into 2 sets: level legends, where each card is the same level but a different family, or family legends, where each card is the same family but a different level. There are 5 different families, each representing a different Greek god in the game. Each family has cards with levels of 1, 2, or 3. Each god provides a different type of ability, and there are 8 gods total for variability purposes. Players must manage gold and harps in order to transfer their cards, while not transferring them too early in order to take advantage of domain powers. However, there are reward incentives for the first player to complete a level legend or each of the 5 family legends. At the end of each round, players will receive the bonus from the drafted quest or a generic bonus if they were unable to afford any. At the end of 5 rounds, the player with the most points wins. The only problem I have with this game so far seems to be the egregious lie on the cover. This game does not take 60 minutes. Inevitably, there's going to be some analysis paralysis, but I actually like that about this game, because every time I've played it, the same thing has occurred where at least once every player says out loud, "I screwed up," and people know exactly what they mean. They gave away the wrong resource, and as a result, they can't take what they want. They're either going to be stuck with a card or fail to complete a card and get a citizen or an inaccurate quest, and that's not going to bode well for their strategy. That's one of the great things about Elysium, how careful you have to be over the course of the game. There's not a lot of room for mistakes, and you want to make sure that you're taking as many synergistic cards as you can. You also have to be very careful about when you transfer them to your Elysium. There are some bonuses there that you want to be the first person to get. You may decide to forfeit a domain power in order to get it into your Elysium, but if you do it too early and you're not in danger of losing that bonus, well then you've lost your ability for the rest of the game, and it's not easy to get it back. These are just some of the many things about Elysium that I like, particularly the gods. You can't just play science or military like in Seven Wonders, because those strategies might not even be in the game. Each god feels very different, and you have to think very carefully about how they combine and what's going to bode well for that particular game. Elysium is a great game, definitely a step above Seven Wonders, and one that you should check out. Just don't worry about the time. It's going to take a little bit longer, but you'll enjoy it. I love drafting games because they're all about choice. For me, Seven Wonders was my first drafting game. I remember when it came out, and I remember really enjoying it at the time, but other games have come onto the scene and evolved since then. For me, These games stand out as games that I actually play a lot more than Seven Wonders. If you want the same drafting feel as far as the turn-by-turn is concerned, Between Two Cities is definitely going to be for you. If you want another game that feels like it was made by the same designer, Tokaido is that game, and it was made by the same designer in a way that you could absolutely tell. Elysium is another game that has many scoring opportunities, many things to consider, many strategies to pursue, all of which are equally effective. So for me, these are three logical steps from Seven Wonders. Neither of them are gateway games, and neither is Seven Wonders, but if you were lucky enough to play Seven Wonders and you enjoyed it, definitely check out one of these three. I'm the Board Game Bandit, and this was Next Step Gaming. We'll see you next time.